to this evening's Malliard Report. Before we begin, the views and opinions are those of the host and guest and do not represent any sponsors, affiliates, or anybody else. I want to take a minute here and also remind everybody to go over to duckpond.shop and buy a t-shirt. Now, I'm telling you this, I don't normally tell you that, but I'm telling you that because it may come in handy soon. More so than it has in the past. That's all I'm going to say. Sound fair enough? Okay, anyways. I'm really looking forward to my guest tonight. We're getting some things settled out here, so he'll be here directly, I imagine. Former Secret Service agent John Carman. Now, John's been on the program, I want to say 3 times before, if not 4. I know multiple times. For sure. So, and we've talked about a wide range of things. And that is what excites me about John. Because John is one of those types of guests that we can talk about anything and everything about. Yeah. Unmute your mic, John. Let's start talking. Has it really?
Yeah, okay, yeah, let's do this thing. Yeah, I could talk about anything, pretty much. If I don't know, I'll say I don't know. You want to talk about it? I'll talk about it.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's hit your website and your Patreon page right off the top, because that needs heard before anything else that we get into, because I want to get you supported. So go there first.
Customscorruption.com. Most people know how to do a Patreon page, but let's see, mine basically is through my name. So they can go to either patreon.com or they can go john.a.carman and look it up that way. On occasion, I've had some very nice, generous people send me money for my support. And I hate even asking, because my situation's that bad. You know how PayPal works. You just have their email, john.a.carman@gmail.com. Then you can send a request to donate money or do whatever that way. But I'd rather get an attorney. I'd rather fight the government through the system and just get my retirement, get my Social Security. And I'm fighting them for Social Security right now at age 67. What a bunch of BS. These people are such lying SOBs. Can I say bastard on the radio waves right now?
Yeah, you can say bastard.
Good.
I've probably said worse, so go ahead.
Oh, okay.
It's not excusable for me. If you do it, you're my guest. I can explain that away.
Right. Expletives, but people don't get it. They don't get it. They don't care, or they're stupid, or they're ignorant. Excuse all the intelligent people that might be catching this airwave transmission. But if you do your job under the law, and I was a sworn official, and I was cross-designated, cross-trained, and cross-sworn like a dozen to 40 different agencies, that's something people don't understand, that I have the knowledge and an extensive background. So when I made arrests, or I made interceptions, or interdicted drugs, or illegals, and all these other things from Secret Service, San Diego PD, U.S. Mint Police of San Francisco, where the gold used to be. We could talk about gold, too. Then I went into U.S. Customs since 83 to about 98 with extensive death threats since 85 after I seized a bunch of heroin in Calexico, which is just east of San Diego. Calexico is the home of Kiki Camarena, whose name has recently resurfaced again. The DEA agent who was abducted in Guadalajara because he accidentally saw something they thought which related to CIA-supported government smuggling operations from Mexico into the United States. Now, there's a special protected disclosure, and people don't understand what I just said. Some of them might. And I'm being penalized for doing my job under the law, which means they're supposed to support me, promote me, transfer me when I get death threats, and put me somewhere else, keep paying me, promoting me for my excellent, outstanding work. And I'm not bragging. I'm laying it out flat, cold, honest, right up front. Otherwise, why am I being treated differently than some other people that have had that happen to them when they were black or female or whatever their category was or situation? So it doesn't make sense, but it does in my understanding, because I'm the guy that disclosed this stuff. Internal Affairs knew about it, and I've been vetted by the best. Special Agent in Charge Miguel Contreras, you can put that on the airwaves, because he was the guy that vetted me and confirmed all of my allegations were 100% correct. That's a quote. You can't be born that perfect with that kind of a record. Like batting is 1,000 when you step up to the bat. And then after one strike or one hit, then it goes down and the averages change. But it's impossible. See, that's where the training and the hard work and the discipline come in. If you want to tell kids, if you want to get somewhere, work hard, don't do drugs, don't drink and smoke, and be an athlete or not, and train hard since you were like 10 or 12, that kind of thing, or earlier if you can do it. So, but yeah, there's laws. 18 U.S.C. 111, 18 U.S.C. 115, subparent A, subparent 2, which was actually enhanced by President Clinton in '96 to protect federal law enforcement officials, past, present, future. In other words, if you were a law enforcement official, or if you are, and after you get out, you're still protected, and your family. So even a U.S. attorney is protected. Even federal officials of any kind, federal government workers, that kind of thing. So where's my protection, right?
Yeah, I don't know. So I want to tell the listeners that may be wondering what are the missing pieces that they're not quite hearing. I know me and John have, I was saying right off the top, we've talked before, and I want them to go back and pick those up, because we've got so much current stuff that I don't want to sit here and rehash everything that's happened in the past. Because
we talked to, I just talked to somebody yesterday about the shooting at the White House, if you want to go into that too.
Yeah, as like I said, there's so much current stuff going on that is blowing my mind. Go ahead, go into the White House shooting. It was one. I forgot
to ask, which coconut grove are you at in Hawaii this week?
I'm not at any. I wish I was.
Oh, darn. Well, darn. How come? Why not, right? Get us on a plane. Let's do interviews in Hawaii this week or something, right? Yeah, so far I haven't dug up into the details further than last night, but some 51-year-old, I think it was a white male, came up near the executive office building at 17th and Pennsylvania Avenue, which is right at the EOB, as we call it. And that's less than, 25 to 35 yards from the White House entrances, which is also an entrance to the White House. But they say White House, and you know how the news media wants to blow it up like it was at the White House. Well, it was there, but it wasn't at the White House, but it was right there at the perimeter. And apparently this guy had come up to a Secret Service officer and made note of him, challenged him or something, because that's why they're out there in the first place. And I've worked the same duty, perimeter, the whole Washington, D.C. metropolitan areas, protecting the embassies, the ambassadors, heads of state, and, what they say is the metropolitan area. It could be Virginia, Maryland, and D.C. And D.C., by the way, is still 15.5 miles in diameter, basically. That's why they restricted the drones not too long ago. But anyway, this guy was crazy, and I guess he stated something like he had a gun. And I'm telling you, if anybody says they've got a gun and you're out there on duty, you whip yours out real quick, and you don't wait for anybody to tell you. You don't wait for anything, and you get it ready. Doesn't matter if he's kidding or not. If he is, then you go up and arrest him. If not, then you be prepared to shoot him and do it properly the way the training says, which is 2 to the chest, 1 to the head. Not that always happens, but that's the training. And I pulled my gun dozens of times, hundreds of times, and almost had to shoot people less than a half dozen, if you want to get a career average or stat on that. And I've arrested fence jumpers at gunpoint, and people are just crazy, or people trying to get into the White House, carrying a briefcase, looking like an agent, you name it. So people have no idea what Secret Service really does, what their jobs really entail, and what their training. Shooting, the academy. You pass the basic academy for Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, or FLETC. It was in D.C. when I was there, and then later they switched it to Glencoe, Georgia, and then they switched to somewhere else. But then the final training phase goes through the other facility, which is 6 to 8 weeks there. You shoot the gun you shoot the gun some more, and you shoot it some more until you're tired of shooting, and then you shoot it some more just to make sure you're tired of shooting, and then you still shoot. So you're doing it in your dreams. You're doing it in your sleep. You're just like so trained. It's like, oh, it's second nature. So it's one of those things. Handguns, shoulder weapons, etc. So, and automatic, fully automatic. Uzis, remember the Uzi?
I do.
Yeah.
I remember. I never had one. I guess I should clarify, but I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I got qualified with the Uzi. That was fun, and I was one of the top. I'll say it, distinguished experts. That's a classification I had in shooting, and that's a special classification. If you hit 295 to 300 consistently over 3 months in a row, consistently, et cetera, et cetera. And when they gave me a gun, they just said, "Hey, shoot it." Okay, boom, boom, boom. I even had a guy on a police department who was trying to be a wiseacre. There's an acronym. And it's like, here's a shotgun, rifled slug, and I'm just standing there. You, Carman. Yeah, you can do it. Yeah, you'll be first. I'm always first. You know, it's like the alphabet stuff since you were a kid. You know, last name starts with a C or something. If it was Abel, I'd be first anyway again. But God forbid, forgive the kid that had a Z with a last name, the alphabet thing. But he'd say, okay, load it up with 6 rounds, rifled slug, and just shoot one at 6 o'clock. And I go, 6 o'clock, are you sure? He said, yeah, 6 o'clock. Okay, boom, 6 o'clock it went. This idiot was thinking it was going to go to dead center because most people don't know how to handle a shotgun, like some of the 5'4" females that we had, or whatever. Joke. Sorry, ladies, but women normally can't shoot a shotgun. But it wasn't a big deal. But he thought I was being a wiseacre about it. I said, well, you told me to shoot 6 o'clock. That's where I shot. Okay, shoot the rest of them in dead center. Okay, boom, 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 boom. Just like that. Dead center. See, so I proved a point. I was not being a wiseacre. He was being a wiseacre to the extreme, thinking he knew what real shooting was. And maybe he forgot where my prior training was. But I was a Boy Scout. I was a Cub Scout. I learned how to shoot a .45 at the Marine Corps depot in San Diego. Joke. That's a fact. So people can't say that I learned it somewhere else, but I started. But I used to shoot in Texas when I was a kid too. So hunting, that sort of thing. Military family, transferred every 3 years thing. So a lot of these people really don't get the training. Nowadays, they've got automatic weapons, they've got a lot of shoulder weapons, and that's what we need. But anyway, back to the shooting. The guy got shot, dropped him, because he turned around, allegedly grabbed for something out of his waistband, dropped down to a single knee prone position, as we call it, like he's going to shoot, like a sharpshooter type thing. And by that time, I would have shot him anyway. I'm sorry. You can't second guess what the other guy sees, but if a guy grabs something and he's dropping down and I see something, that's it. I'm shooting him. He's intending to kill you. Here's the question most people don't get. If he shoots that officer, why is it a threat to the president? Duh. If you were in the Secret Service and you're less than 50 yards away or less of the White House, don't you think that guy's just going to shoot and walk away? No, he's going to shoot you and kill other people and get inside the perimeter and get into the White House. And that's why they had to whisk Mr. Trump away. They have to locate him centrally at another location, not near a perimeter area part where he was at. Are you familiar with the outlay of the White House, the way it's set up?
Not in enough depth to know.
That's okay. I'll describe it. I pulled up the picture yesterday just so I could describe it to other people. But I'm looking at an aerial photo, just a regular type thing like that. If this guy had gotten through the entrance off Pennsylvania Avenue, if he'd have gone into the EOB building, he would have wasted his time. He would have got shot eventually. If he went across the street directly up north of that would be Blair House, which is the old temporary residence that Truman used to use, and it's still used today if necessary, in case they're doing some special work at the White House or, doing construction or something like that that would require him to relocate. Or it's used by high-ranking people like Queen Elizabeth to visit, walking distance, where she could just walk across the street without having to go to a great distance away. And she would get special protection, and they would still block off that whole area. If this guy had gone maybe less than 100 feet and tried to get in through another entranceway and didn't get shot, he would still be able to get through, no different than the fence jumper years ago that actually jumped the fence. You know, the guy with the flag, I think he had a Hispanic name, and he supposedly had a knife in his possession and maybe had a book or something. I don't know what, I forget what it was. I didn't dig into it too much. But if he knew where he was going, he could get up to a certain point if he wasn't shot. In fact, I'm going to point out that one of the female officers that was there at that time on that particular incident failed her job, and she should have been removed or transferred out right after that. She was off the steps of the main portico. You know, every time you look at the news, you see somebody standing there right at the steps, right at the main entrance with the gigantic lantern hanging up above, and the news media always has that as a backdrop to their newscasts every evening and afternoon. That's a very focal point. That's an entranceway. If you get into that area, you have access to the mansion or the residence. That's critical. Okay, I've actually protected Jimmy Carter, Anwar Sadat, and Menachem Begin, if you remember those guys, during the peace talks back in '76 or so. And if some people would assume, oh no, he would have had his peace talks, they would have been in the West Wing or near the Oval Office or something. No, not necessarily. But what was interesting, and this is from my personal observation, was that is unusual, but he had the meeting somewhere else near the entrance and inside the White House of the main building, which above would be the residence and all that. He could have had it anywhere, but I was in a secluded area near the state or the East dining room. I'll just say it like that. I was the only guy there that was armed, and it was just the three of them. Why they didn't want to have it near the Oval Office was probably because there was too many people. The press corps is near there within less than feet, 25, 30 feet away, around corners and other officers and down hallways and stuff like that. They didn't want to be anywhere near any place that might be recorded or have somebody accidentally see something. They're busy talking private. So that's kind of an honor in the fact that I was the one trusted to be able to protect them and all that. Remember, that was 76, 77. In 81, Anwar Sadat was assassinated by his own Muslim military that was on a parade review type thing, and some guy whipped out AK-47s and shot in the stands where he was sitting. That's outrageous right there. Their security people apparently either got shot or they didn't take care of business and make sure those people were properly screened. If I had seen activity, they would have been shooting at them before they even got off one round or two rounds, but that happens. And 81, by the way, is the same year that some guy named John Hinckley shot at Reagan, supposedly. And the reason I say it that way is Reagan was shot, but he wasn't shot by a bullet. And supposedly, according to John Judge, you can pull his name up off of a YouTube channel or a YouTube interview, the sound waves that were recorded said that Hinckley already shot 6 rounds out of the gun that he had. Brady was hit, Delahuntty was hit, the cop, and then Tim McCarthy, the agent, was hit. He didn't wear a vest that day. A lot of mistakes. And then the D.C. cops that were turning around looking to see the president, those guys screwed up, major. Secret Service doesn't do that. You can't turn around and go, oh, look at the president. No, you don't do that. You look at the people in front of you who are suspects, including cameramen and news people and people like that, so you can see that there's nobody to pull a gun out like Hinckley did. So the x-rays apparently showed a flechette. They went back in to pull out a flechette. Something about the size of a dime, if anybody wants to look at a U.S. dime and imagine that it had a sharp edge on it. That's a CIA weapon. And here's the test question for all you folks out there. Who was vice president that week when Reagan was shot in 1981? March 30th, I think. Anybody?
You got me, and I'm the only one on the line, so.
I just figured somebody might yell out, right? That was a guy named George Herbert Walker Bush. Poppy Bush. Mr. I don't know where I was in 1963, Bush. Mr. Line CIA, Bush. That's interesting because people don't get that. They go, wait a minute. Bush was vice president, so if Reagan was disabled in any way, he would take over as president and maybe get elected in the next election and do another 8 years. Then he would have 8 plus whatever was left of the first 4 years on top of that. That would be the longest serving legitimate service by a president of the United States, if you go back in your interesting facts thing. So, yeah, that was an indicator, big indicator. But yeah, it's amazing. I mean, if you look at the floor aerial thing I'm looking at here, it reminds me of all kinds of incidents, including the time where Barbara Walters and her chauffeur-driven limousine pulled up to the Southwest Gate one day. And usually, if you have appointments, you get to come in through another entrance near that. And she tried to come in claiming she had an appointment with Betty Ford, the First Lady, to Gerald Ford. And, you know, when a vehicle pulls up to a gate and you're on your radio, do we have traffic? And they said, no, what's going on? Well, we got a vehicle out here. You sure we don't have traffic? And they said, of course not. We don't have traffic, blah, blah, blah. So that means the Secret Service is doing something else or not. So I have to check. And some driver says, well, I got Miss Walters. She's got an appointment with First Lady, blah, blah, blah. Really? We'll check that out. Radio transmission again. Well, Miss Walters from whatever is claiming she's got an appointment. Let me go on the phone. Then I go on the phone and talk to them. They go through appointment center and they said, no, that's not true. She's lying. There's no deal. Get rid of her. I wanted to arrest her, but I already contacted her to reaffirm it was her and get her ID because I still need her ID, name, date of birth, that sort of thing, and verified. And she wasn't very nice looking. She was kind of nasty looking, and like she may be in trouble, or maybe she was trying to pull something that she shouldn't have. She didn't look like her nice, friendly self that she never is. I've dealt with news media people before. It would have been different if she was just a good person, but she's not. But she lied. And lying to a federal officer, by the way, will get you time in prison for at least a year, by the way, just to mention lying to a federal officer. 18 U.S.C. 1001, last time I checked. So she refused to show ID. She says she didn't have one. So, okay, wait here. Go back, finish the phone call. Nope, no appointment. Get them out of there. And I'm thinking, now it's the vehicle. I'm suspecting the vehicle. There's something wrong with the vehicle. Why would they come up claiming something and somebody would be so stupid as to let that vehicle in? That's dangerous. What if she had a suitcase nuke in there? What if somebody else is pulling another scenario that I will not repeat because it's that sensitive that people don't need to know those kind of things. That's why some people are like, well, how come they don't release the name of that guy that just made a shooting? And well, because they're investigating. They want to do a pure, thorough investigation and find out everything that goes all the way back in his whole history before he was born, before they figure out stuff, and go serve warrants, go find out where he lives, see if there's any evidence and things like that. So that was just an interesting connection, but that's just how I kind of set it up like that.
So you mentioned Jimmy Carter, and I have a question from one of my chatters. He was known as one of the hardest people to work with, but I find it hard to believe based on his humanitarian work. So where does Jimmy Carter rank in
the Deacon,
the Secret Service hard to work with files?
I don't recall that he was hard to work with. That we call him the Deacon. That's his code name right now, the Deacon. He was religious, or is religious. He's a nice old guy right now. I've actually written him letters in the past. I've actually talked to him on the phone because he happened to be in San Diego one time visiting this lady. I'm bad with names because I'm getting old now. She was a staff member. Midge Costanza, how's that? Took me less than 5 seconds, right? That's a big deal. I'm still taking my ginkgo biloba. I got to do that. But Midge Costanza passed away a few years back, but when he was in San Diego, it was because he was visiting her, or he's out building houses, helping people. He is a good man, and so is his wife. And I've had dealings with her when they first came in, and Rosalind Carter. And when they came in, she was like escorting some guy out to the gate from the White House building area. And I'm going, well, no, ma'am, you can't be out here without your agent. Where's your agent? I'll have to. So I stood between her and the avenue from the street side to protect her in case somebody would shoot, which is part of my job. And I told her that no, the gentleman can walk right down the gate on his own. You don't have to escort them all the way out. That's because she's a Southern lady type of thing, because that's normally what you do. So they were still feeling their ways around. I'm more concerned about the stuff on the UFO stuff Jimmy Carter was going to release, just to bring up a subject. And when he got into office, he was practically in tears because he got briefed, and he couldn't talk. He couldn't talk about Operation Blue Book, which by that time they may have changed the name just to legitimately hide it or something. That concerns me.
I think they're hiding a lot of things.
And it concerns me right now, if you want to make the connection. I can go into that too.
Yeah, go ahead. You're right there. Let's do it. Because I think it is interesting to see where it's at, where it's still at. I mean, it hasn't changed since then.
Well, I pick up on interviews, and I've interviewed millions of people, literally. That's a fact. That's not a made up thing. I already estimated how many people I had processed at the border in 15 years, plus my other time with other law enforcement, which I didn't really include so much, but it was the time at the border where I had to process millions of people in 15 years. I estimated 4 to 5 million, rough average. Now, in that time frame, I was a behavioral analysis expert, and every time you're interviewing people, I'm looking at your face, I'm looking at your eyes, looking for reactions. I'm a behavioral analysis expert. I am a human lie detector. Now, my responses are different than a machine. I get to look at different responses that a machine can't pick up on. Yeah, your blood pressure might go up. Your carotid artery might be bulging a little bit or pulsating out. Your eye reaction, a nervous twitch, your lips or something might quaver or change. Your breathing pattern, your sweating or something like that, or just the stress questions. You know, remember the Holy Grail movie, the Monty Python movie? I kind of throw that in there as a joke, but it's like the troll asking the questions, you know, what's your name? What is your quest? And then he would throw a third ringer in there. What's your favorite color? And the guy said, oh, blue. Oh, okay, go ahead. You know, and he'd let the guy go through it. Well, if I was to ask you questions, what's your citizenship? What do you have to declare? And then I would crank it up to something specific. Do you have any drugs? Do you have any guns? Do you have any money more than $10,000 or something? Or where are you coming from? Just constantly talking. And that was one of my expertises even when I was in Secret Service. I talk to people. Even if I've got a gun on them, I'm talking to them. I'm communicating. I can get into that stuff too, but point is that when I'm interviewing, I'm finding out information, but and I'm sidetracking a little bit. But when I was watching Trump being asked about the UFOs just a little over a year or so ago, I think they had some Tic Tacs. Maybe it was San Diego. It was a recent couple of years ago. And then maybe another incident. When they asked him about that, he says, "Oh, I believe what my pilots said. I have trust or confidence in what they say they saw." He avoided saying he believed in UFOs or aliens and things like that. That is a specific requirement of the alien treaties that exist. That's the drum roll thing. Ba-boom, right there. We have alien treaties since, what, Truman, Eisenhower for sure. Eisenhower met with aliens in Holloman Air Force Base. I always quote 51 for some reason, but other people say 55. That's 51 was when they came out with all these science fiction movies and stuff. You know, like The Day the Earth Stood Still, the first big thing with Klaatu and Gort and all that other stuff. And they landed south of the White House in this huge saucer. But that exists. And I verified 2 of the agents that were there that day in 55 or 51. UFO Crash Book would be a website you could go to by Art Campbell, who recently passed away. And he and I were talking like over 5 years ago, almost 6, 7 years ago. And he wanted me to verify these agents. I said, yeah, send me the list, send me the manifest or whatever. And I looked at it and I go, my God, there's Kellerman. And then there may have been another one. I can't recall the name. Both these guys were in the same limousine that JFK was in when he got shot in 63. Now that's weird, that they would be on an escort with this other meeting where they shut down an Air Force base for like up to 6 to 8 hours, and then turn around and then these guys are protecting John F. Kennedy. And I've protected the same limousine, by the way, at a special building we had in D.C., where we had our offices were worked out of. When we like a police station kind of thing, an undercover police station or whatever, and we would go out and do patrol and protect embassies and foot patrol. The Russian embassy was 3 blocks away, and so was the White House about 3.5, 4 blocks away. So, but that was a special limousine. They didn't want us to touch it too much, by the way, either. I would love to have gotten into that one.
I can't imagine. Okay, so Mr. Human Lie Detector, I need your commentary on something. You ready?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Joseph Biden.
Excuse me? What?
Well, I think that's a start of an answer. I mean, give me a little bit more, though.
Okay. Besides being a human lie detector, I am trained psychologically, so I have to evaluate people, see if they're a mental case. So that falls in the same category when I evaluated that young man in front of the White House in '76, who was the same guy that showed up in '81 that shot at those people, Brady, Dillahunty, and McCarthy, and allegedly Reagan. Okay, John W. Hinckley, John Warnock Hinckley. Assassins all have 3 names, right?
Yes, they do.
That's how that goes. Biden. What do you want to know about Biden?
Well, is he mentally there?
No. Is that quick or what? Next question.
The chat room was just telling me we need to get you to a lightning round so we get these answers quicker because there's so many questions coming in, and there it is. So we're
do it. Come on, hit me up with a question.
Okay, so let's go. We're going to go quicker now. So tell me about the gold. What is going on with gold?
Well, I was there in '82. I was there for 10 months waiting for my background check to be cleared so I could go into U.S. Customs lateral and transfer down to San Diego District, which is a big chunk of change. 120, 150 miles, something. The gold, I've got pictures of it too. 1,065 pounds of gold bars, 999.99 fine, which is the purest you get. You can scrape it off and do all kinds of stuff with it. And they made gold coins, the double eagle or the Godin double eagle, which used to be about $200 to $300 an ounce back then. God, can you imagine if you'd have bought like 100 of those years ago?
I know, right? You'd be a lot better off if you would have bought a few of them.
Oh, like this, like that movie. Steve Martin was in a movie where he was a fireman and he bought a gold coin every paycheck, and that was his nest egg, so he could live off of that if he had to. And nowadays it's almost $2,000 an ounce. I haven't even heard it recently, but it's up there. But I transferred out '83, went down to Calexico because they forced me to go over there on an undercover assignment because of my background. And not too long after, and they had theft at the Mint, to be specific. I investigated theft of gold coins. It was mostly female workers that were working inside of an area where they're only allowed to handle the coins. They're freshly stamped, and if you bought one, they had to wrap it a certain way, package it a certain way, and then send it to you registered mail. So it was covered that way. Well, some of those things were a little bit light when they went out in the mail, basically. Or maybe they put something else, for the weight. But, I discovered an internal theft. But not too long after that, the gold was transferred out. And then later, I'm talking maybe years later, just a few years back. Right now, the U.S. Mint, the old Granite Lady, which was standing in 1906 during the massive earthquake and fire in San Francisco, was the only building standing in that area. That's how, it's like a bomb shelter. It's great, but I wouldn't want to work in the basement too long because I reacted to the mold. But the assay office up the hill, which is so many miles away, they still make coins, nickels, dimes, quarters or something with a San Francisco stamp on it. In the meantime, that gold was transferred back to a place maybe in Fort Knox. Fort Knox no longer has gold there because they don't see the Treasury Security Force police. They were police, that was the police designation, with Uzis automatic weapons and stuff like that, which I still qualified and used even when I was at that location, which kind of helped, because of my background. And that's interesting because that was way before 9/11, which they assumed money was transferred over to other buildings in the area so that when they destroyed the Trade Center, what happened to Building 7? Well, they think that maybe they were keeping special documents related to the JFK thing or to the bankers or maybe some other resource that they wanted to cover up. This is deep state stuff. The Bush's are signatures all over it. And it makes me sick that those people were involved in stuff. But if I had the direct proof, I would say something because I'm not going to hold back. I've had death threats. They don't go away. I've got stalkers. I've got all kinds of people that are just interested in messing with me, or they're just psychologically imbalanced. And that's just how that is sometimes, unfortunately. But there's a lot of information. It's just a matter of who knows what and how to ask it. I'll tell them what I know because it's kind of hard to guide where your audience might want to get into. But we were originally going about the UFO thing, kind of.
Yeah, we were.
That
and
stuff's
now we're
active.
into the gold fang, and now it's kind of my mind's
Well,
going five
gold.
different places.
Yeah, gold, by the way, is a special product that aliens are used in their manipulation or their manufacture of their UFOs and certain projects and certain equipment. So copper, this planet is rich in certain mineral resources. Mexico is a good place for silver. Certain other states are good with copper and gold. Gold is used in a special way, just like heavy mercury or heavy water. I combine both terms. Heavy water and or mercury. That's connected to UFO stuff. And I talk to other experts that know it better than I do. But there is a connection. But I was going to say that Trump flubbed up again because just the other day, last week, a news reporter at the White House press room asked him, is it true they're going to put alien DNA in the vaccines or the shots? And he shuffled the paper, looked around. I think he was looking for the last question person to say no and then leave. It took him less than 10 seconds, and he turned and walked out in a very unusual manner. Not like he was urgent, kind of like he was caught off guard, and just walked out. And I go, that's weird. Most presidents are a little bit more direct, or he would have ignored it, or I can't talk about that right now, or something. You know what I mean?
Isn't the answer right now no? Like, look at the guy like he's absolutely insane and say no?
It should have been, but he didn't, and that's the problem. And I know all the stuff about the COVID-19, and Bill Gates is a liar. He wants 7 billion people on the planet to be dead tomorrow, if he can do it. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, etc. Part of the problem is, years ago, they have a secret time capsule from Richard Nixon. And I was just talking to a buddy of mine, Douglas Caddy, who's an attorney for the Watergate 7 or whatever it was, the burglars thing. But that's not related. But Nixon was not a bad guy in the way they try to make him out to be. That guy was there connected to the stuff with the aliens since Eisenhower. That screwed up my other test question I was going to ask. Who was vice president when Eisenhower? Oh, I don't know. It was Nixon. Well, vice presidents are in charge of all that information, so the president doesn't have to be the only one. He had a formula that he gave to an informant who was an undercover Robert Merritt in Washington, D.C. People could do their research. Otherwise, I wouldn't mention the name. I'm doing that for a reason. I'm making a protected disclosure for whatever that's worth. And the information was also handed to him on a piece of paper with a formula and some sort of a special document that he taped to an envelope to his chest and under his shirt, so that the agent who escorted him to the White House, the EOB, drove him back home near DuPont Circle in D.C. Then he also stopped off at another location where another man that worked for Nixon by the name of Henry Kissinger, if you remember that guy. I protected him because he had an office in the West Wing as well, Secretary of State Kissinger. Secret Service agents were always being very careful about escorting him around because he was a dangerous target for a lot of people, So I'll just leave it at that. But I guess he's in the globalist category. But can you imagine if they have the secret formula, alien DNA formula, to inject into us legitimately to fix our DNA to make us like gods, little g, so you could fly like Superman, go through stargates instantly, transform yourself, or walk in interdimensional between dimensions, and or walk through steel like the reptilians allegedly do. That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff right there. Just to give you a taste of what is going on. That is so secret that that's what they were allegedly willing to kill JFK for, and that's what really bothers me. If we're being controlled by a deep state, which we are, and we're in the middle of a civil war situation, and Trump's not taking action, he's not doing what he should do, in my opinion, from a perspective with my background. He needs to go somewhere safe, hunker down, get the loyal people involved, get the military involved, and make these arrests of these bad guys real quick. Yesterday, stat. You know, stat is the old medical term for yesterday was too late. And get them off to Gitmo and do all this other stuff to them. But yeah, back the UFO thing is a very serious thing. We are in the midst of something coming up, and I've interviewed with people like Dr. Stephen Greer. I know Emery Smith, who's done autopsies on aliens and worked with aliens. That's the latest upgrade. He never admitted that before, but then it got to that point. So that confirms Dulce, New Mexico. Remember the earthquake up in Ridgecrest about 6 months ago? I lived and worked in China Lake. Ridgecrest was the target area of the news article that says, oh, they had an earthquake in Ridgecrest. It wasn't at Ridgecrest. It was on China Lake property, which is the world's largest naval weapons center in the world. And that's where we test all these weapons and stuff. They came out later, and the bees died. That's what my concern was. When you see bees dropping out of the air, it means that they're messing with the electromagnetic field of the planet somehow. Not to mention, if there was toxic fumes, they kind of do that. They're real sensitive. $5 billion later, they said, oh yeah, we found out there was $5 billion worth of damage. To what? It's a surface base. Well, it's not. It's got like 10 or 12 levels below, and I'm just being generous. It could be more. Kind of like that old time tunnel movie, if you guys remember way back in the 60s, 67, 66, somewhere in that time frame. And these guys had a special military base, a time tunnel, and it was in the desert, and they went down underground. It was all underground. People have to think in a different dimension. Just because they don't see it on the top doesn't mean it's not there. Ask Admiral Byrd when he flew into the North Pole, and there was a big hole up there, you know, or Antarctica, you know, if you want to get into that stuff too. But I'm trying to stay focused on the alien stuff. Presidents can't admit or talk about it. When they do, they get killed for some reason.
So I want to take it to a different, well, kind of different place with the presidents right now, because we're, well, pre-COVID, we'd be in the middle of this major election cycle, and they'd be out stomping everywhere. So talk to me about being on the campaign trail and what that looks like for the Secret Service, because that has to be a nightmare, going to all these different places and all these different towns that wouldn't normally go to.
Well, if they get their schedule ahead of time, Secret Service has to know everything ahead of time. And if they've got Secret Service in Denver, I'll just pick on this to make it easy, then that means they contact the Denver office. They still send out an advance team. The advance team goes out there, 10 or 12 guys or whatever, and then they go work with the locals, and the locals make contacts with the locals in law enforcement and make sure that this is where we might have a visit. This is where this may happen. So that means they have to get to a certain point where they have to trust certain people to let them know, yeah, the president might be coming out here. But the thing is, if they do that, then there's political people that are also notified as well. And they have to kind of keep it quiet. But they don't. You can't trust everybody, but that's just how it works, you know. And it is a nightmare because they want to make sure the place is secure. And then if you're in Denver, they want to make sure that all the people that are there, and if they've got any letters or threats from anybody or phone calls from anybody from that area, guess what? They have to get checked out. They have to get checked out again and see what they're doing, what they're up to, and if they're out making bombs or at the practice range every week or doing stupid things with people's photographs and doing damage to it or chopping heads off what? You know, like that stupid idiot female actress, whatever her name was, you know. Or Snoop Dogg, there's another good one, Snoop Dogg. Or, I like Madonna's music, but, her thoughts that she had about the White House were bad. And Cher made comments. My God, these people are stupid. They're making veiled or direct threats, no different if it was like Maxine Waters. Why isn't Maxine Waters in prison right now? She made direct threats against the President of the United States. One of my favorite black comedian guys is Terrence K. Williams. He's really good. I like him. He spells it out. He's a very truthful person. I like him. And he sees it too. People that see the truth will see it exactly for what it is. And when these people make all these veiled threats and things like that, it doesn't matter if they're in an open session of Congress. Once they step out of there, it's totally different, out in the open and things like that. So, Rashida Tlaib, the Ilhan Omar, who's here illegally, violating immigration law and marriage law, fraud and things like that. Why aren't they arrested? What happened to the gonads and the cojones and the testosterone level of the law enforcement people? Or are they telling everybody to stand down? Like in Portland. Ask the people in Portland. Do you guys like what's going on in Portland? No. Well, why don't you get rid of your mayor and your governor and people like that? See what I mean? So they're pushing the edge. They're pushing the envelope so far that people are going to have to take physical action, and you have to be careful how you say certain things. Like Alex Jones, he says, I'm not saying take violence. I'm not doing that. But he, what he's saying. It's that bad. That's why I make suggestions all the time. I said, look, Trump needs to get these arrests. Barr's not doing his job. Maybe Barr needs to be replaced. I have no problem doing that. Look at what happened to John Kelly, White House staffer. He was doing stuff to prevent the president from knowing stuff. So I get the impression that too many Democrat spies were embedded too close to the president when he came in. So therefore, and I hope I don't have to do an interview about him getting hurt. You know what I mean? I really don't. Yeah. I just had to say that because I have bad thoughts that come up like that I hope we don't have to have an interview later on something. But these people are setting him up. They've been doing it for years. This is how they think they're so smart. This is what upsets me. They think they're so smart they can lie to your face and you're stupid. Just like that pendejo. How do you folks speak Spanish up there? Do you know what pendejo is? Can you spell pendejo? The guy from Kenya, Mombasa, who was a Muslim, and he lied about who he was. That man should have never been elected because he's not a natural-born U.S. citizen. That means you have to be born in the United States, and he wasn't born in Hawaii. So, another subject, right? So, but yeah, I'm concerned about the security all the time, and they could do a better job, and the people that they've got are in appointed positions sometimes, like that Julia Harris, I think was her name. I'm getting names mixed up. Julia Harris Pierce, the former female Secret Service director who finally was fired because somebody shot an AK-47 at the White House from the South, and nobody did anything. And then when they finally noticed it, somebody from GSA, the general contractors that they use for keeping the upkeep of the building, if the paint's chipped. Hold on, let me get rid of this call. Here we go. That's easy. Hang up, right?
Yep.
I hate the ones. I hate the ones at 3 a.m. That really pisses me off because I have to get rest. But yeah, they found out that there was gunshots all over the place because of it, and that's what's really weird. So obviously they're not doing their jobs, and they've got these tokens, and I'm saying that with emphasis because you don't need tokens running certain agencies. Oh, now it's going to keep chirping. Watch this. I'll just turn it off. How's that? No chirping. And I have to say that with special emphasis because I worked hard for where I went. I trained hard. I didn't smoke. I didn't drink. I was an athlete, martial arts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I did what I was supposed to do. And there's people out there getting promoted because of who they slept with, nepotism, who their relatives are, or who they did sexual type activities with, and those people get promoted type thing. That's wrong. They sacrifice security and national security and all kinds of things that affect national issues and Americans in this country. And I fear and empathize with homeless people in the streets right now, because we've got refugees, according to the Obama administration, is still giving them or gave them some sort of a thing where they got $10,000 a month. I verified it through the congressman's office and congresswomen's offices and attorneys, and I called up San Diego Social Services, state of California, and they said, "Oh no, Mr. Carman, it's not $6,000 a month. They get $10,000 a month." Oh my God, what a revelation! This person was honest enough to tell me, because I was telling them who I was or am. So that was a big deal. But they also get Social Security cards. They're not Americans, and they get Social Security cards. That doesn't mean you're an American. It just means that you get a Social Security card. Now that means something else. And then they give them passports. At least that was what the whistleblower status from another person came up with. You could come here and get a document, but it still takes you 5 years unless you join the military, and then you can donate 2 years. Then they can give you a U.S. passport. See what I mean? There's procedures in the law or in immigration law to do that. But that's another long, involved kind of a discussion. But go ahead.
As I say, I have 2 questions, and we got about 10 minutes. So
hurry!
Be prepared, John. Talk to me about QAnon. Do you believe he's... well, here we are.
No. It's a military-connected group. I've argued this point with other people who think, oh, it's him. No, it's not him. He doesn't have time to be doing that. I even question the stuff that's written, because it's not written in first person when he tweets either. So you can read it, you can entertain yourself with it, and they can put all kinds of BS hints about it. But if it doesn't sound like it's coming from POTUS himself, then you have to discern and go, wait a minute. Do you think he's got that kind of time? I go on email on White House email routinely to the president and or help with a federal agency. And if I got intel, I have to send it. If I get information on a threat, I have to notify Secret Service or send another email to a certain classification. I do that stuff continually, and I'm not getting paid for it. I wish I was, then I'd be doing more. But yeah, QAnon I think is BS. I'm sorry, folks. It's nice.
That's okay. You're good there. I have had questions. That's why I'm asking you. Okay, next question. Well, I don't want to say last question because I know there's...
Come on, get as many as you can.
Tell me about this whole Jeffrey Epstein mess.
Okay. Epstein was protected up to a point by his first conviction. He was killed at the MCC in New York. A broken hyoid bone is not normal. You can choke yourself out. You can lay down and asphyxiate and all those other things, but you don't break your hyoid bone. They could have moved him out, but they didn't. So there's all these idiot theorists who are trying to lie to people, say, oh, no, he's off with the Mossad. They snuck him out and did all these other things. The indicators are that the guards that were there were involved in it, and the warden was transferred. Those guys should be up on charges of murder or homicide. Ghislaine Maxwell was the one that he was supposedly protecting because she is the madam. She's the one that was training and cultivating these pedophile-type victims for years. He was just part of it. But look at the money. Even Ehud Barak, who I verified on a manifest, was flying out with 2 Secret Service agents to protect him, because the president can direct protection for any foreign ambassador. Department of State might not handle it, but usually Secret Service. So that was unusual. But that was on a Jeff Epstein jet to fly out to Zorro Ranch in Albuquerque. I did an interview with another gentleman back in New York who cut me off, and we didn't do any more interviews because I disclosed information that they didn't want out. That was about the island. The island is a window dressing. It's not what it is. It's underground. The facility is underground. This is where they do the secret sacrifices and stuff like that. So it's all satanic. Okay? And I've interviewed people that were involved in these programs that were victims, pedophile victims, things like that. They're all over the place. They're lucky. They're alive. So I've interviewed people who've actually been through the processes and stuff, and it's horrendous. They'll do anything and kill anything just to get their adrenochrome. Hence the old joke with the picture with Hillary, with that picture with her in a hood. Have you got any adrenochrome thing? So I'm waiting. I'm just sitting here taking the same polls most people. Do you think Maxine or Ghislaine Maxwell will get suicide? Maybe. Do you think she'll be free after naming names? Maybe. You know, the 4 or 5 choices thing. Everybody tends to go towards, they think she's going to get suicided.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize that was an actual verb until I seen it the other day, and I went, it makes sense, but...
Or arconcided is the other one.
Yeah, that's a whole other story for another day.
Yeah, and I used to talk to those guys, too, so I know that that's a extensive list. But go ahead, keep on with that. That's a really hot subject.
Yeah, I was going to say, how much more is going to come out, though? I mean, are we at the top of this iceberg, or is this,
we're at the tip, but the problem is there's been too many pictures of a guy named Jeff Epstein and a guy named Donald Trump in the past. And he openly admitted that, no, he distanced himself years ago because he's kind of famous and rich, so they tend to rub elbows anyway. So I didn't see the connection the way you would normally think. I thought Donald was probably more involved in a party than Jeff Epstein was. Jeff Epstein was like, God, when can I get rid of this guy? Or how can I get away from this guy? Type of an attitude. That was the look on his face. And that's my interpretation. But I don't think they were that connected. Maybe he didn't even know what he was into. See, that's what gets me. You can get all kinds of famous people that are associated with or go to parties. William Gacy, the murderer, he ended up doing photographs at the White House, dressed up as a clown with First Lady Nancy Reagan, I think, years ago. So things like that happen, but you don't realize how close they get. And I used to check all kinds of people, but that's just to give you an idea. But I am monitoring that stuff. But when you get royals involved and they're trying to cover that up, you'd be surprised that they won't off a royal like they did Lady Diana, who was killed. That wasn't an accident. That was an assassination. And that bothers me greatly.
That's heavy right there, John. That's heavy.
I posted a picture of her with her eyes because I was looking at something. And for some reason, God works with me in this way that He's got me focusing in on certain subjects. I'm going on Googling.
Well, I got a question here. Go ahead. About a minute and a half, so this is not the type of question I should be asking you at this point, but I want to ask you before we run out of time. Are we on the verge of another civil war?
I'm afraid we are, but I don't think we're prepared. But there are people that may be prepared, and the deep state has been doing this for years. If they do that, they are willing to sacrifice American lives. They do not care about American lives. That's why this Antifa stuff needs to be stopped, stat, immediately. If they don't get arrested normally, you take action. If they don't, and they refuse, you shoot them. I'm sorry, there's no other way to do it. If you get somebody who doesn't do a regular arrest, and if you have to do it at gunpoint, and then they resist or fight back, like they've been doing, you do self-defense. You have to shoot people like that. They have to be taken down, and that's as hardcore as you can get. A lot of people don't get that. They don't have the background. They don't have the training. Ask military people, and I've talked to military people. I know military people. I come from a military family. They are upset. There are law enforcement people like me with my background that are so upset. They don't want to be quoted at the words that they quote on certain social medias or certain websites. They know what needs to be done. And if the people are that dumb and stupid and dumbed down, they will have a rude awakening and they will be pulled in and taken advantage of. These Illuminati types and these people that we think are head of the governments and the state level and the mayors, like in the West Coast, the Democrat states, these people could care less about you. They've got a place in Hawaii or some island. They can fly in their jet and they don't care if your house burns down or if you all starve in the streets.
Well, unfortunately, we're just going to leave it right there because we've got about 45, so we're just running out of time. Customs correct. What was that again? Give me the website.
CustomsCorruption.com.
And that you could find everything from John there. John, it's been a pleasure. We have to do this more often. I know I say that a lot, but we need to do this more often.
Yes, we do, because there's a lot of stuff going on, and I've been getting busy lately, so that's an indicator. So,
well, have a good afternoon. Go return your phone calls and be busy again.
Yes, yes. Take care. Nice to talk to you. Have a good one.
And that's friend of the Malliard Report there, John Carman. And go check out the old stuff with him. It is so so much stuff there that you have to just dig deep through and get caught up to work forward to get caught back up. What a mess. Anyways, good night, everyone.